Ambassador Wilkins, would you like to kick things off?
Absolutely. Well, it's always a privilege to introduce special people who you're privileged to call friends. That's how I feel about Senator Lindsey Graham and Senator Tim Scott. With these gentlemen representing us in Washington, our relatively small state punches way above our weight in the U.S. Senate. And in my opinion, and David Beasley just said it, we have the best delegation in the country. And by judging how much our two senators are seen on the nightly news, it's obvious folks around the country agree with it. Now, I'm going to introduce Senator Graham, and then Senator Scott, do it collectively together and get those introductions out of the way so we can hear from them without interruption. Start with Senator Graham. As many of you know, Senator Graham and I go a long way back. I first met Lindsey at the Ham House here in Greenville back in 1992 when I was encouraging him to run for the South Carolina House as we were trying to gain a Republican majority. Lindsey took the challenge, ran and won. And then 2 years later, on the floor of the South Carolina House, he came up to me and said he wanted to run for Congress. And I gave Lindsey some very sage advice. I said, Lindsey, don't run. You can't win. It's a Democrat district. And you have a really great future here in the South Carolina House. Well, fortunately for our state and our country, Lindsey had totally ignored my advice. He ran in a heated primary and against a tough Democrat in the general election and won, being elected to Congress in 1994 and then serving a total of 4 terms in the House. In 2002, he was elected to the United States Senate, re-elected in 2008, again in 2014. Lindsey is now chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee and is truly a national figure. But despite all he's accomplished, he's still the humble, well-grounded guy I met back in 1992. Still the same guy from Central South Carolina who simply wants to make a difference. And now Senator Scott, like Lindsey, Senator Scott is in high demand to bring his perspective to the issues of the day. And in this year, defined by unprecedented challenges, Tim's compelling life story and compassionate way, Senator Scott treats the vital issues our country is currently wrestling with, has won him even more admirers and supporters. Senator Scott recently earned accolades for his compelling primetime speech at the Republican National Convention. And before that, for his diligent work on the police reform bill. Senator Scott has been serving in the United States Senate since 2013. He's a member of the Senate Finance Committee and previously served in the U.S. House and also the South Carolina General Assembly. In 2018, he co-authored a book with another well-known South Carolinian, former Congressman Trey Gowdy. The book is called Unified: How Our Unlikely Friendship Gives Us Hope for a Divided Country. It is a special book. I strongly recommend it. It is truly inspiring. So now, please join me in welcoming our two very distinguished U.S. Senators and a true friend to all of us, Senator Lindsey Graham and Senator Tim Scott. Thank you. Senator Graham?
Well, I've been well introduced, like Tim. Tim, we're going to hire David to preach our funeral. David, that was very kind. That was very kind. And the reason I left the State House is I got my first paycheck, and I said, we got to get out of here. I think Tim had the same reaction. He was in the State House. So, David, thank you for being amen, for a stable figure for a long time, being the speaker at a time of great turmoil with the flag, and you just a dear friend to all of us. Tim's speech at the convention was, I think, one of the best political speeches I've heard give by anybody at any time, but it couldn't have come at a better time for our state and really our party and our nation. So Tim is in tremendous demand with an unlimited future, and I've enjoyed working with him. He's the finance guy. Nobody knows more about the budget and numbers and the debt than Tim. So I've got to run and chair a judiciary committee here in a few minutes, but I thought I'd start off with the idea, will there be a phase 4? I talked to the president last night. He definitely wants another package. When I was at home recently, a lot of small businesses felt they could use another round of PPP. It would be more targeted to smaller businesses, 300 or less. People have lost, 50% of their revenue. Hospitality industry, Tim's got some ideas about that, making food 100% deductible, entertainment expenses to give a shot in the arm to hotels and restaurants. That part of the economy is really suffering. I think a stimulus check to moderate low-income people would help the economy. Giving money to schools to reconfigure their classrooms so kids can go to school in person. That took a lot of money to rearrange these classrooms. So I think there's a need out there, some unemployment benefit enhancement, but the $600 benefit is just created an incentive not to work rather than go back to work. So we got to change that, but I don't mind doing something on the federal level. So I talked to the president a long time last night. I think they may be an effort to come up with a new package. It won't be nearly $2 trillion, but it'll be north of $1 trillion. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. Liability protection is really important. Many of you are trying to reopen your businesses. And if you follow the rules at the state, local, and federal level, you shouldn't be sued. So that's a big deal for Mitch McConnell. So that's sort of the state of play in terms of what we will do between now and November. There's maybe a 1 in 3 chance we'll do a phase 4. We'll have a continuing resolution to fund the government. We're not going to pass a big budget. We'll fund the government at last year's levels and see who wins the election. That's pretty much what I see. And we're confirming judges up to the last minute. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tim.
Well, thank you, Lindsey, for being such a good, strong advocate for all things South Carolina. There's no doubt that in Speaker as well as Ambassador Wilkins' opening comments, you have not changed. The one thing I can say about your leadership is that you are consistently the same person every day, day in and day out for the last 14 years that I've known you. So thank you for serving our state, not by putting Republicans before Democrats or blacks before whites, but by thinking about South Carolina strong. And that is a fantastic dedication that you have for our state and frankly for our nation. I just agree with Lindsey on the vast majority of what he said. The chances of us getting another phase, another iteration of a CARES package, it's less than 50% certainly. The ask on the left is for $2.5 trillion or more, period. No negotiation so far. The president certainly has indicated that he is willing to come back to the table and negotiate. The Republicans, whether you're the conservative side of the party or the most liberal side of the party, all are wanting to come back to the table to negotiate, helping our small businesses through another round of paycheck protection program, as well as another bite at the apple, as you're able to demonstrate at least a 35% loss in revenue is key, as well as a 300 employee level. So we are going to focus on the state's industries. It's one of the things I've charged myself with the responsibility of doing. And that means having whether it's tourism, which would include hotels and restaurants, or our retail establishments, all need significant help. So I've focused on finding a way to have an incentive-based economy, to have deductions that would encourage people to come out, to dine, to take it home with you if you're a business owner, as well as working on a broader footprint on all entertainment-related expenses to try to get folks in our consumer-centric economy to continue to participate at the highest level that they can afford to do. So with that, happy to answer any questions while we both have the time here to do so.
Thank you. Mr. Phillips, I think you had a question.
No, it wasn't a question, but I do want to take the opportunity to thank Senators Graham and Scott for their hard work during this really challenging time in our country. My note in the chat was really more of an encouragement to support additional relief for small businesses. It's half of small businesses that have received funding through the original CARES Act, or the first 3 CARES Act bills. They've already exhausted those funds. That does not bode well for the future of our economy if those smaller businesses don't receive additional help. So thank you for your advocacy to try to secure additional funding for those small businesses. And please don't give up the fight, because our businesses are fighting to stay alive, and they're counting on you to fight for them as well. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I'll say this, Carlos, that both Lindsay and I have run small businesses. I started a few insurance businesses and a real estate company and worked on a janitorial cleaning service as well. So I understand signing the front of the paycheck when you can't sign the back of the paycheck. Well, what we're talking about right now is no paycheck at all. And so that's one of the things that we're trying to bridge. And we're going to get that done, hopefully. The question is, do we get it done before the election or after the election? I'm very confident that we get it done. But you hit the nail on the head. The PPP was really for 8 weeks of payroll. And I think we need the small business owners to have a second bite at that same apple. And I'm very hopeful that we're going to get that done.
Well, and Senator Scott, if I could make one more point, you said don't know if we can get it done before or after the election. I would just like to posit, I don't know if we can afford to wait until after the election to get this done. So thank you again for your strong advocacy.
Absolutely, Carlos. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I would like to tell you what we all want to hear, but instead of doing that, I'm going to tell you what I know. And I know we have less than 10 days, really Lindsay, we have like 4 or 5 days left in session before the election. And if it's not done by Tuesday of next week, it's not going to be done before the election. So I hate to say it like I see it, but that's how I think of it.
Yeah, let me just echo, Carlos, what Tim said. So Nancy Pelosi said like 2.3 or whatever, not a dime less. The president said we'd be willing to do more. I think Democrats have come to conclude that it's better for them not to do a package politically. That's too bad. But there's a revolt going on in the House. There's about 60 House members, Democrats and Republicans, called the Problem Solvers Caucus, who are refusing to take no for an answer. I think what you saw yesterday was President Trump encouraging them. Yes, I encouraged the president last night to call that group directly. Don't call Nancy Pelosi. Call them, go around her, and start a dialogue. And if we can get a dialogue started by next week, we'd probably stay in a little bit longer to get this done. So we'll see what happens.
Good point. Thanks to both of you.
Thank you, Carlos. Have a great day.
Amanda Taylor with AT&T, I think you had a question.
Yes. First of all, thank you to both Senator Scott and Senator Graham for your leadership in the Senate on a national level and for the state of South Carolina. Senator Scott, I wanted to personally say thank you for your advocacy for the police reform bill. It's very personal to me. My father was a police officer, and he was also hurt in the line of duty about 18 years ago. So that's something that I feel very personal about. And I also work for a company who's very passionate about equality. So thank you very much for that. Also, thank you for your support for Serve and Connect. That's something that AT&T is partnering with, and we appreciate your support for that organization as well. And I know that you support them. So just a thank you for both of you, and continue the good work.
We should give her more time.
Yeah, really. We're trying to get a broadband. Tim and I came up with a grant, $10 billion to states to build out broadband for rural and underserved areas. And I'm hoping that would be in any package, because if you're on distance learning for schools, you need the best connections you can get. And if we want to wire up South Carolina, Tim's opportunity zones have been a game changer on economic development for low income areas, and we're trying to do something to make sure that they're wired they're wired as well as just tax incentives.
Well, I thank Lindsay for his leadership. Frankly, he came up with the concept of using opportunity zones as a place to start the conversation on expanding broadband, because we know that those areas are majority minority, and the unemployment rate is significantly higher than our average, as well as the poverty rate's over 30% on average. So these are areas that we know we can make a significant difference. And Amanda, to you, as well as to your father, thank him for his service. I can't imagine your perspective on what's happening around the country. The one thing I told my friends on the other side that we will not do with my legislation is demonize police officers. They work hard, not because they get paid, but because they see it as their mission in life to provide security and peace. We should reward that by not demonizing them and also providing more resources to train those officers who need to understand and appreciate duties to intervene and de-escalation tactics. But demonizing police officers is something that we will not have in my legislation.
Thank you for your efforts.
Yes, ma'am.
Senator Graham, we've had a couple people text me asking about trade negotiations. We're an export economy in South Carolina, as you both know. Where do we stand on that? Do we think we might see some movement by the end of the year on it?
Well, I don't know where we're at with China. We're sort of, in a confrontation with China about, their phase, whatever phase we sign, where they're supposed to buy ag products. But I see a potential with Great Britain. The president, we talked last night about a European Union agreement. The USMCA, I think, modernized NAFTA in a good way. The president's probably not going to do a Trans-Pacific Partnership. I'd be actually okay with that. But I can see a series of bilateral agreements in Asia. But I think that the big movement is going to be, what do we do with China? We're trying to do something with Taiwan. But the big outstanding issue is, can we do something with Great Britain and European Union writ large? I doubt before the election, but if President Trump gets another term, you're going to see some major trade agreements that are more advantageous to us than in the past. He's really turned the trade issue around, beneficial to the United States and USMCA, and I know Tim was a big part of that, being on finance. And I don't know where we're going to be with China. Probably not much between now and the election.
Nothing to add to that, Lindsay. Spot on. China delayed. UK, the president wants to make a deal. They want to make a deal. There will be a deal.
Yeah.
Only question is when.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Senator Scott, I know you hit on it a little bit earlier. Where do we stand on some broader criminal justice reform issues? That's something that the Greenville Chamber has been taking on in the last few years at a state level. Level, what else are you hoping you might be able to get done? And you hit on it a little bit a second ago.
Well, Jason, thanks for the question. A couple of things I'll say very quickly. A part of my Justice Act has already been signed into law. We were able to get a bipartisan coalition around the Commission on Black Boys and Black Men, a study that will provide an expert's perspective on ways to create fairness and parity throughout the nation. As with African Americans, I think it was a great start. I'd love to see the pieces of the Justice Act that we all say we agree on, from data collection to more training, body cameras. These are not controversial on either side of the aisle. Those I would take it in silos and have those signed into law. The Anti-Lynching Act that was sponsored by really several senators, passed through the Senate 99-0 or 98-0. Twice it's been through the Senate. That should become law. I would say that training around the duty to intervene, bias training, de-escalation training, all those, resourcing those through additional grant dollars is in our best interest. If we had done it already, would the officers in Kenosha had better training on what to do in that situation? The answer could be yes. So there's a lot that we can get done, and frankly, on the president's First Step Act, I will say that Lindsay worked for 5 years before there was a President Trump. Lindsay was working on criminal justice reform and literally getting that done and across the finish line. The next iteration, from my perspective, has to focus on the job skills necessary to transition from being incarcerated back into normal life, which means you need a job. So the type of training that's a part of the First Step Act needs to be implemented. The mental health component that's a part of the First Step Act needs to be resourced. And then the dressing for success, getting the interview skills, the soft skills. Lindsay has championed all those issues and will continue to do so. I partner with him on those issues. And I think that's one of the ways that we can improve the drop of the recidivism rate, which means that there's less crime in neighborhoods. So you can, yes, have a fairer system and, most importantly, protect the communities that these returning citizens are going into.
Yeah, the only reason we don't have a bill is they made a decision not negotiate with Tim. Everything in Tim's package was bipartisan. And he said on the floor, if you want to go further, I will. Let's start the conversation. They stopped the proposal from coming to the floor of the Senate. They made a calculated decision that police reform somehow helps us, not just the country. And it's too bad. I was in the meeting with Tim with some prominent Democrats, and it was clear to me. I sat there. Tim ran the meeting on our side. What do you want to do? I'll do that. They've made a calculated decision here to just do nothing unless they have to, and they may have to do something on phase 4 on the stimulus side, the economy side, because people are going to get evicted from their homes and start losing their businesses. So there's some hope that they'll come to the table here because of the economic dynamic.
Jody, I think you had a statement you want to make?
And Scott, this is Jody Bryson with the South Carolina Technology and Aviation Center in Greenville, the new home of Lockheed Martin's F-16 production in South Carolina. Yesterday, we had a great presentation from Aaron Mosley, who's a Global Vice President of Business Development for Lockheed Martin. A lot of exciting things going on with the company, 400 new jobs in South Carolina, and they're just getting started. And of course, they have an opportunity to potentially get some depot contracts later this year. And so I just wanted to thank you all for your strong support of Lockheed Martin in South Carolina. 35 plus years they've been located here. And we just appreciate your great support. And we think the future is very bright now with the F-16 production in South Carolina. And would love any comments that you might want to share with the group today about those efforts. Thank you.
Well, I'll do real quick, and I got to scoot and go to Judiciary. Thanks Lockheed Martin for coming to Greenville. Foreign sales of F-16s are going up, not down. These peace agreements between Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates is bringing peace to a very troubled region. I think the more agreements we get, the easier it is to do foreign military sales. The F-16 has stood the test of time, and the foreign military sales part of it, I think the future is pretty bright for Greenville. And one thing I can say about President Trump, he can be a handful, but when it comes to retooling the military, he's like Ronald Reagan. And we got defense budgets that I could only dream of a few years ago. So I think when it comes to the F-16 program in Greenville, the best is yet to come. And with that, I've got to leave and go do another round of judges. Thank you, Tim, for who you are and what you do. And David and everybody on the phone call, I appreciate all the support over the years, and I'll turn it over to Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. And Jody, not much more to add to Lindsay's comments. I do think that you'll see more production, more opportunities in the upstate because of Lockheed Martin. I only anticipate and expect that we'll see an increase in jobs and opportunities. F-16s are very marketable right now and will only get better.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Senator Scott from anybody? We have a quiet crowd this week, Senator, compared to previous years spoken to us. Usually we had lots of questions.
That's okay.
Jason, this is Max. I'll make one more. Senator Scott, one thing, really appreciate all the work with you and Senator Graham. This Max Metcalf at BMW. Do you see some of the travel restrictions, especially international travel restrictions, getting lifted soon? This is statewide, and talking to manufacturers. This is getting to be an issue with being able to get technical teams back and forth. And these are very important travelers because it helps us be able to provide a higher level of services here and deal with future product, not just the existing product. So I just wanted to get your forecast on that.
Yeah, Max, my forecast is, let's see here, partly sunny with intermittent showers the rest of the year. I will say that I'm optimistic about 2021. I was speaking with some of the senators from across the country, specifically in Hawaii earlier this week, about travel restrictions and what it looks like from an international perspective, because lots of folks who want to go to Japan, Australia, they land in Hawaii and they keep moving on. And I know their state's changing some of the dynamics. It was going to be October 1st. He says they're pushing it to October 15th, but they're talking to some of the international destinations. And it looks like we're heading in the right direction, certainly with some announcements around Regeneron's monoclonal antibodies. They're able to now really stop in its tracks the progress of the virus. That should be out with 10 million doses between now and the end of October. That's going to have a positive impact. Pfizer, Eli Lilly, and many others are working on therapies that are going to work. The vaccine, probably, they have it slated for November 1st for some positive announcements. From my understanding, it could be an actual vaccine Christmas time, but certainly in the new year. So as all those therapies, treatments, and vaccines come to market, that is going to reduce the stress levels and all the challenges that we're going through significantly. And so 2021 will be a banner year. And frankly, talking to some of our CEOs of American Airlines and others, that is a game changer and anticipated for a robust year next year. Not back to normal, by the way, in the first half of next year, but certainly comparatively speaking to now, you can expect a 100% increase between now and probably March or April next year.
Right. Well, definitely thank you for your support for manufacturers statewide and what you're doing.
100%. Thanks, Max.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any other questions for the senator? Senator Scott, as always, thank you for your time. We always appreciate it when you have some time for us. And thank you for everything for us and everything you do for the state.
Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you guys really soon. Take care. God bless.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, that will conclude our morning session today. We will have, as to remind everyone, we have an afternoon session coming up at 4:30, happy hour. Bring your beer, wine, liquor, drink, whatever you'd like. Moutre McLaren, Chief of Staff for Congressman Timmons, Jennifer DeCasper with Senator Scott, Alan Klump with Congressman Duncan will be joining us for what we're calling Hail to the Chiefs. If you ever want to ask questions about what it's like to run one of these offices or whatnot, it's always an interesting discussion, and we'd like to hear from them, and they might be able to talk to you a little bit more about what they're hearing, what they're seeing on Capitol Hill, and ask a few more questions along the lines of what you've been asking the congressman and the senators over the last couple of days. And I want to thank everyone for sticking with us on the virtual. I think this went well. I think it was a good morning. Governor Beasley was fantastic, as we expected, and I was glad we were able to be worked into his schedule somehow. Ambassador, thank you for moderating. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And with that, y'all, thank you. You have the rest of your afternoon to go return your emails, and we will hopefully see you back here at 4:30.